everyone can agree with that.
I do agree with that.
I mean, like, I feel like you're fucking retarded, General Chief. I feel like that's where we are right now. Like, I feel like you're
I'm
fucking
specifically
retarded.
not trying to poke around in things that I know that I don't understand. What about that is retarded?
I mean, I feel like you standing here, trying to like present your nature God as a whole, and just looking at things, going like, you should do what's good for you and your family, right? And that's the end all be all of things. And then like outside, can you hear me? Can you hear me or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, there we go. Okay, all right. Right, like I feel like you should stand here and like do what's best for you, your family, and your community.
I would agree. Yes, that is what one ought optimally do.
Yeah, and
you're very adversarial, Pnoid. It's like you go out of your way to be adversarial. You're very bold and brash.
Yes, 100%. Right. Like, standing here going like, nature God is like the most important thing. It's like, man, listen, like you don't even have like a set ideology of what nature God is, or like what nature God does for you, or like what like where nature God like affects your life day to day, or like how it should affect the general person.
If I ever did have a set ideology of how nature God affects me, then please shoot me in the fucking head because I've gotten something wrong.
Why?
Because that cannot be how nature God exists. It's very simple.
No, that's how nature God exists.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that you said that. I suppose that I trust you.
Like, no, like your beliefs and your structures should be like laid over top of your culture.
I didn't realize that I ought trust you about all things. I suppose.
Yeah, well, wait a minute.
Do that
he does bring up a good point, General Chief. Like, to the extent like your theological system interfaces with the broader culture, I mean, it's kind of just you and me having theological debates and interlocutions and theolocutions back and forth, like developing this over time. Like, the closest thing I could think of to an actual like theology and an actual culture that practices anything approaching what you discuss very often, General Chief, would be some type of hunter-gatherer civilization. Because the second you hit agrarianism kind of necessitates a form of at least totemism, and totemism is already getting into something more transcendental.
Yeah, you're right. That might be true. It might be that I have no idea what to do. I mean, that is entirely
like, like, this is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, sitting here, like, spouting off, like, your shit. Like, I don't think you've thought it the whole way out.
No, I probably haven't thought the whole way out, but I've thought about a lot of things. But
yeah, don't shit on him. Don't shit on General Chief too much. Like, by the way, like, you might not know the history behind this, but he kind of got to like this theological conception of nature as a god with a lot of like the toolkits that I've been working with him over the years on and developing myself and my own philosophy. So if anyone's to blame for his nature godness, it's me. Fundamentally,
well, if I feel where you are, right, like you're a smart guy, right? Like, I know you're a very, very sharp person. You know a lot of things about a lot of stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like, I've heard you spout, like, you, like, every time I bring something up, like, you actually, like, you've read the book and you know the stuff, and like, you know, like, the actual like philosophy behind things, and you know the intricate details and stuff. And I love that. That's great, right? But the problem is that like I know history, right? And like I read history, and like I've read the books, right? So like when you go and like I went and I studied anthropology in college, and in doing so, like, I realized that, you know, like, people believe in shit for a fucking reason. It's not like just because like they believe in things, right? It's not like, oh man, one day like they woke up and they go, yo man, you know what? Cows are just
notice
sacred.
If you dig deep enough, all gods have a fundamental component of rationality about them.
Yeah.
Like, God from the beginning is rational. Like, this Protestant faith alone bullshit, that's like a fucking much, I would argue, flawed perspective on this type of shit. Like anything that's just faith alone, just like you just got to tell yourself it's true until you believe it. Like that's indistinguishable from a type of hypnotic cult, in my perspective.
Well, like the problem is, and this is why like I wanted to come have this conversation with y'all, right? Is that like you're smart enough to be able to understand like what I'm saying is that like Christianity in being a weapon, right? You know what I mean? It's because like they try to use Christianity as a replacement for culture, right? And instead of like you having a culture and a history and like interacting with the geography around you and your people around you and your family and your tribe and all this type of stuff, and then laying the religion over top of that, right? Having that religion develop off of that, you import this Christianity and you live by these Christian beliefs that don't match anything to do with like any of the shit that matters day one inside of your household.
I've heard of a really old theory that's actually goes something like basically Christianity. Now, this is just a theory that I've heard certain people throw around. That it's kind of like ancient Roman propaganda in a way. It's just like this completely made out of whole cloth by Roman elites in order to domesticate people.
Yeah, I'd 100% believe that, right? You know, because like that's how it's used, right? Like that's why like they wanted the Mayans and the Incas and all this type of stuff to like, you know, they wanted them to like convert over to Christianity is because like if you let them have their religion, they would never, you know what I mean, like be part of your world and be able to interact with you day to day. Fundamentally, they would be different people.
Well, all of this matters not.
What?
Your beliefs.
What are you talking about? It matters not. It matters everything.
I think it actually matters not. Your
And he's just gonna say evolution will sort it out and nature will take care of it. That's what General Chief always does.
That is what I will say. Yes, but that's because there is truth behind that.
No,
it's just not. Gotta just like a Protestant, you just gotta tell yourself like just keep saying it till you believe it.
You don't believe in the Catholic God or the Protestant God. You believe in truth, always and above all. That's the nature.
And you don't really believe in evolution. You believe things that you read in books and studied in college from other people making a scientific methodological theory.
Correct, without a doubt, Breaker. But when have I ever disbelieved in the nature God? Tell me a single time. One time that I've had disbelief in the nature God. A single time. Tell me a single fucking time. Oh my god, I doubted some of the fucking textbooks in college.
Wait. Here's have you ever heard of Darwin's universal acid?
I'm sorry, what?
Darwin's universal acid.
Darwin's universal acid.
I know that there's an acid that can dissolve both gold and silver, but I don't know.
No, that's not what it is. This is a philosophical belief, right? So like people say that Darwin's evolution is a universal acid, right? Like as soon as you learn about evolution, you apply it to everything, even though like there's a lot of stuff that you can't really apply it to. And I feel like that's what you're doing.
I could suspect that might be true, but I can't assume that I'm the only motherfucker on the face of the earth that has used Darwinian principles to guide himself. And if there are other motherfuckers on this planet that have used Darwinian principles to guide themselves, then they have probably left out, I guess, lights to guide me, because I think that we're on the same team. So there's a whole thing there, right? Darwinian evolution goes way fucking deeper than you think.
I feel like it doesn't, right? I feel like, Darwinian evolution, doesn't account for like about 40% of things, right? And like some things are just happenstance in the end of the day.
That is absurd. That is absolutely absurd.
Well, in a way, like Darwinism is very deeply rooted in like mathematical axioms when you think about it, and we both kind of know where those end up. Now, you and me, General Chief, like we get around that problem in our theolocutions around, therefore was geometric. They were less concerned about discrete numbers and more concerned about underlying principles like Euclid's elements, for example, like measuring with like actual rulers with numbers on them wasn't as important as demonstrating like, okay, I can make a circle this way regardless of its size. This fundamentally represents a circle. I can make parallel straight lines this way. This fundamentally represents that. The length doesn't matter. Just assume they're infinite. It would always work.
It is actually very interesting what you can do with a series of fireworks. Yeah. Fucking so much human interest behind that. It's so fucking cool. That shit's amazing.
But there's that element of the universal underlying things like Euclid's elements, because he probably didn't know this at the time. It's not like using discrete operators like whole numbers so much.
Yeah, but again, we get back.
It wouldn't
to,
be till many years later.
I mean, like, so you don't pray to the nature gods. You pray to Darwin.
To the Pope? No, I don't pray to the Pope.
You pray to Darwin.
Well, Darwin or the nature god, I'm working on that one. Yeah, but nature or the Darwin god, yeah.
Like
I don't want to come across as shitting on General Chief too much, because like me and him go into this stuff really deeply. It's just like, I'm a lot more patient than you are, Pnoid, and I'm much less bombastic and argumentative.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so
like, but
I
I feel like you have
long periods of time doing this.
You have to confront people if you want them to change, right? Like, you have to break their paradigms down, right? And I'll
tell you something. I'll tell you a secret. I'll tell you a secret about General Chief. General Chief is not swayed by blatant fucking aggression. If anything, that makes him more recalcitrant. You have to like do this on his terms. If you just come out like, you're retarded, fuck you, like Alex Jones level aggression, like turbo dinosaur power, like that's not going to work with General Chief.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, folks. Interdimensional space demons right here, spirit cooking children. Right, I got documentation right here, folks. Right, but like, yo, the problem is that like we're not standing here like looking at Darwin's evolution. Right, at the end of the day, like what we're looking at is our evolution. Right, like, yo, we are evolving ourselves in a negative way, like away from nature, and on top of that, we're evolving the world in a way that is like, you know, what I mean, like the opposite of nature. Right, and so therefore, like,
observing fucking humans getting like smaller and like doing like their own like weird evolution. Yeah, I know, dude. It fucking happens all the time. It's crazy.
Cows, chickens, are cool. Pigs.
I know.
Dogs, cats, rats, pigeons. How many animals do we have to evolve in a way that doesn't suit nature?
How many animals have evolved that don't suit nature?
Well, I mean, like, yo, we fight against nature, so therefore, like, evolution, like, nature god doesn't really like apply.
No, we never fight against nature. What the fuck are you talking about? We never, ever fight against nature. What the fuck?
We constantly fight against nature.
No, you
that is liberalism's. That's liberalism's eternal struggle, is the fight against nature.
No, there's not a single instance where you would ever willingly fight against nature. That's fucking crazy.
Do you know what a dam is? Do you know what a dam is?
Yeah, it blocks the water and it makes the salmon not be able to swim.
Oh, well, wait a minute. You're making certain like axiomatic assumptions about this.
Yeah, 100%.
A dam can be intentionally built and engineered by humans to block water for some type of like abstract purpose, whether it's electricity or preventing water from entering this area because you want it to be dry. Like any number of reasons you could come up with dams, but dams also occur perfectly naturally when like boulders roll off hills into rivers and block the water. So a dam is not explicitly synthetic.
Yeah. But a human dam is specifically synthetic.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh,
I don't actually. I need to ask you, Pnoid. You could probably answer this question very quickly. Mm-hmm. Are you a mind-body dualist, perchance?
I'm gonna go with yes.
Okay, that
No, you're
explains a
not.
lot.
No,
That
you're
explains a lot.
not. No, you're not.
No, I
that
think
can't
he
be true.
is. I
That
think
can't
he
be true.
is because the way he describes things, it fits.
Like I'm not like
Now, I
100%
don't
like aware of like all the stuff that comes down with like that, you know what I mean, mentality, to be honest with you.
don't have a problem with it. I want to say from the outset, I don't have a problem with it. General Chief, most of the time, does have a big problem with it, with very few exceptions. And it's kind of like this vanishing asymptote, like
I can recognize
more
demons.
of him. That is a form of like dualism in itself. Yeah. It's like an attribution of a type of fundamental, essential malevolence.
Yeah, and I don't trust demons. Period. Even if the demons have existed for a long time, I still don't trust the demons. Fuck the demons. That's my perspective.
You often talk about demons, General Chief. Where are the angels? Could you define angels?
Oh, no, there are no angels. Demons are the same thing as angels. There's no distinction.
Okay, so what the fuck are we? Are we just like demons that are retarded? What the fuck?
No. We are the holy genotype that expresses the holy phenotype.
So genes are angels.
All right.
If
No.
exist,
I'm not a dualist, right? Like I just read up on it real quick. No, I'm not a dualist. I believe that like the mind and the consciousness are tied.
I think I'm right. I think I'm fundamentally right here.
I do believe in a soul, though. In the end of the day,
I think that we all believe in a soul. To be fair,
ensoulment is a dualistic concept.
We all believe in a soul. I believe in a soul. Let's see. Tom, you believe in a soul. You just said that. Breaker, yes. Do you believe in a soul?
Rakir.
I don't believe my definition of soul would fit into yours. It's more universal than that.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know, man. Like I believe.
I don't believe in individual ensoulment, like we have like unique, specially crafted or allotted souls from like the soul well or God Almighty created an individual soul.
How come we wouldn't have that?
Why not? I have a very different belief. Like, my belief is that like your soul is part of your family's soul, right? Like it's part of your ancestry type of it's a soul that's passed down from generation to generation.
God damn it! You know what? I just gotta say this. Look, I'm a little bit drunk, man, and
it's also 4:30.
I'm not usually nice, but fucking Pnoid, you're so much fucking smarter than Twink. Yeah, dude, Twink is such a fucking dumbass.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's not a very fucking high bar. If anything, you're insulting him.
Yeah. I mean, like, yo, yeah.
I got so fucking sick of talking to Twink. Like, it was such a fucking pain in the ass.
Well, did you hear Angel got banned because like he was sending naked pictures of himself to Twink and shit?
Yeah, I heard that, and also I'm not sure why it is that the politics server would care that Angel is sending dick pics to Twink.
Because he's a mod. Because he's a mod.
No, but it doesn't matter. It's not really the purview of the politics server to care about that.
If I have the fucking lefty power differential shit where if you're in a position of power, you basically no one can consent to sex with you unless they're also a mod of the server. I don't know how these fucking people's minds work. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how to operate that. I feel like banning Angel for that seems like going way overboard. Like, can we all agree that sexting Twink is like one of the most disgusting fucking weird shit that you could possibly do? Yes, we can all agree on that. But will man do whatever the fuck he wants to do? Also, yes. We have to grant the freedom, don't we?
I mean, like, we don't have to grant the freedom if we don't want to.
No. I mean, yeah, you don't have to grant it.
No, Sheep is always going to grant fucking freedom because libertarian.
Yes, yeah, ultra libertarian. Just
Yeah, no,
let them
no,
do
You
their
see,
own
no,
I
thing.
no.
saved you like several minutes of expository dialogue.
Yeah. See, like with me, like I believe that, like if you have a community, you should have rules in that community, and like if you feel like people shouldn't have the freedom to be able to do that, you shouldn't have the freedom to be able to do that. Like if I
I
had
don't know
like
the
if
I
I
don't
was
know the correct
chief,
rules.
like if I was chief of a community, like I would ban all married women from using social media.
But how do you know the correct? How do you know the correct rules for that community?
Well, I mean, because like that's a good rule for any community.
Okay, but how would you actually be able to determine that those were good rules that you put into place?
Well, because like I know that that's a good rule.
I mean, right? Yeah, we all know that's a good rule. I'm just saying, like,
Well,
it
that's
seems
why.
very.
That's why. That's why. Nothing more. Just because we all know it's a good rule.
It's not quite why though, because
It is.
okay, if you went a slightly different direction with that, I might be able to agree with you.
Okay, if he's the chief in like an ancestor worship scenario, that basically means he's equivalent to the All Father, which means he's the father of the whole fucking tribe, and
Yep.
family law takes fucking precedence over state law, so fuck you. It's his household. You're gonna obey his rules, or you're gonna get outside the fucking wall and take your chances with the fucking wolves.
That's
that is a
it's a
good
very
point.
simple thing.
That is exactly how that situation would evolve. However, consider one generation later. How does that situation evolve? You end up with
And the
the
retarded
top
shit.
son. You end up with the top son and the second top son competing for the most recognition of whatever this idea of being the top dog is, and that's
Well,
what you get.
my job is my
Just
job.
sounds like primate social hierarchy to me, General Chief. That's what that sounds like. It sounds
It's
like
a
nature working.
Yes, it is all nature, but what I'm saying is that even when you try to use statistics, you cannot escape nature. Nature is always
Well,
around you, and if you try to use math against nature, nature will ha at you and make you feel bad and turn you into a frog. Don't
well,
What are
use
we disagreeing about?
my job as like all father is to find somebody to pass the next thing down to, right? And whether it be my son or somebody else's, it's my job to choose somebody to like stand here and go like, you have the basic principles to be able to do what needs to be done, right? And it shouldn't just be like
excellent.
out of
Yeah,
my
that
kids,
is
right?
good.
You know what I mean? Or at least
Right.
like give
That
them
is
a
good.
good choice as to who they're going to choose for their next leader. Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like a couple of people go like, hey, all these individuals here are like, like solidly vetted, solidly raised, I mean, these type of things, right? And to set up a system in which nature won't prevail, where like, nature will just stand here and choose like, the just the next random ass
It
individual
kind
and
of
it'll all break
sounds like
down.
you're trying to tell me that you sent your kids to public school. It kind of sounds like that's what you're trying to tell me. And you know what, dude? It's okay if you sent your kids to public school. Everyone makes mistakes. Like it's okay.
Well,
Like it's not a
sometimes you
big
don't
deal.
have
Ad
a choice.
hominem.
You don't have a choice to like send somebody to public school most of the time, right? Number one. But number two, even if you send them to a good school, it doesn't fucking matter because they hire the best teachers out of the best colleges. And what do the colleges make, General Chief?
Stupid people.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. It doesn't matter. You can't avoid this bullshit, right? The best colleges in fucking like the top of Manhattan and like the Jewish elite are literally standing here teaching transgender nonsense.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a thing that is corrupting all of our children. Like I know that it's a fucking massive issue. I'm just saying.
You're
I'm trying to separate myself from that issue as much as possible. I would rather homeschool my kids than put them into public school at this
my
point. Like,
my job as a father is to move my kids away from nature as much as possible.
no,
Yeah.
you should actually move your children towards nature, not away from nature.
No.
That's how
My
you-
my job
that's how
my
you become
job.
a
This
good
is a
father.
semantic difference. This is going to take hours to resolve. It's a semantical thing, General Chief. Like you
I'm
have
fine with
different
it.
conceptions of quote unquote nature.
Yeah, I mean, because
Well,
like socially,
By the way,
like social.
General Chief, I'm trying to get General Chief out of here because he's got a ski trip tomorrow and it's past 4:30. So
I don't care about a ski trip. I'll be honest with you, bro. Like, stop being so white.
That's
well,
a good.
he
That's a good point. Yeah, fuck my ski trip. Fuck yeah, bro. Yeah, I want to
God
keep
damn it.
diving into this.
Yeah.
fuck.
I mean, like, yo, do you really want to go
No.
pizza and French fry for like 12 hours and like have your legs hurt, be cold, fall on your face in the snow
Okay,
and
you're
shit?
fucking your relationship with your fucking girlfriend, General Chief, is more important than random people on the internet. You need to get the fuck out of here.
I disagree. You know what I mean? Like, building your mental is probably way better than your fucking than your girlfriend.
You know what, Breaker, you have spoken deep truth to me. That is always a correct thing. I value my girlfriend more than people on the internet.
Why?
That is
like,
true.
she's a fucking zipperhead. She's a mongoloid. Why do you care?
Fucking
Because
Pnoid, just stop.
because that's the person that I'm gonna make babies with, and I'll tell you what, I'm not gonna make babies with you.
I mean, like,
So,
they're gonna
Family
come out.
law.
They're gonna come out with
Family law.
They're gonna come out with slanted eyes. Why?
That's not your business because it's not your fucking family, Pnoid. You're not the chief of General Chief's fucking family. Fuck off.
No,
all right,
stop polluting the white race with these zipperheads, for fuck's sake.
You know what? Do you want to know something, buddy?
What up?
I bet that you're not actually white. Okay, here's the thing. I bet that you're not actually proper fucking Scandinavian or Anglo-Saxon. I bet that you're some fucking trash form of goddamn German or Italian or whatever.
I am Italian. I'm 100% Italian.
Yeah. In that case, you
Okay,
don't
he's
count as
Italian.
white. You're not
He's not human.
You're not a real fucking
No.
white person. You've never been a real white person. You never counted as a real white person. You want to think that you're white. Everyone wants to think that the Italians are white. Everyone wants to think that the Greeks are white. You're not. You might as well be a goddamn Muslim for all anyone cares. Okay, that's how the fucking thing exists. Yeah,
yo,
you're
I'm fine
a
with
fucking Muslim. You fucking piece of shit. You're a goddamn Muslim.
Okay, go, General Chief.
You know what? You should start shouting fucking Allah Akbar at everyone that you know. You fucking goddamn piece of shit.
Yeah, but we have our but the thing is, we have our women under control.
General Chief, you need to go.
That is true. You do. That is something that you guys do better than the West. You know what?
Ended on,
fuck you, Allah Akbar, fucking improvised explosive device, fucking piece of shit. Get the fuck out of my nation, you fucking
assalamu alaikum, my friend.
You know what? I hope that you marry. I hope that you marry your own sister. I hope that your sister is someone that you personally marry and then you accidentally make babies with. I hope that you accidentally commit incest. You fucking piece of shit, fucking waste of a toilet human being. You fucking Arab. Get the fuck out of here.
Get it all out, General Chief.
All right.
Okay. He's destroyed, General Chief. Go quick.
No, General, man. I mean, like, I try my best to impregnate as many Scandinavian, English, milquetoast white bitches. I love that milky skin against like the contrast of my darker.
Do you want to know something?
It's amazing.
I hope that you get an infinite amount of cancer. Like I hope that it's not just cancer on the dick, it's cancer on the balls, it's cancer on the taint. I hope that you just get like cancer all over that entire position, and you die a fucking horrible death. That's my hope for you. You fucking piece of shit, non-white. How's that sound?
Okay, you win. You win.
Yo.
He's not human. Okay, go, General Chief. Go to bed, General Chief. Go.
All right. Okay. Have a good night, fellas.
All right, man. Later. Yo, I'm gonna go get me some bangers and mash.
Oh. Wait a minute. I was gonna talk to you, Pnoid.
Yo, what up, Wrecker?
Nothing much.
Oh shit, he just there we go.
Yeah, he's left. Okay. Oh, thank God. He needed to get the fuck out of there. Yeah, he has to, because he's drunk and high, so I have to be the fucking adult in the room. I am technically older than him, but like older brother old. I'm only like 4 or 5 years older than him. So, but anyway, yeah, that fucking. I noticed like a lot of like semantical differences between you and him. It's like how you're defining nature. It's like when you said like protect your kids from nature, I know what you mean by that. General Chief's perspective is like much more totalizing because for him it's like it's a type of divinity. So there's like no one leaves the presence of God, blah 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 type of thing. You know the fucking deal with that. For you, it's just like nature just represents something like external to humans that at best is something that you could kind of have marginal degrees of control and containment over, and at worst is actively trying to kill you.
Well, like, nature is, like everything around you as a whole, right? So like, and all of the things, like nature is unforgiving, like most of the goddamn time. Like we spend our entire like existence as a species trying to like not be, like killed and eaten and destroyed and shit out by nature, right? Whether it be hurricanes or earthquakes or lions or other chimps or, fucking like, antelope running us over, bison goring us, like whatever it might be. Like we spent our entire lives trying to avoid nature, right? And trying to protect our children from nature, the cold and the hot and the fucking wet and the fucking disease and all these things. So like as human beings, like we try to control nature as much as possible, and a lot of our evolution and a lot of our like ways of living are anti-nature. It's like why, since we've had the industrial and agricultural revolution, the amount of animals that weren't our food directly or raised by us for food, has just exponentially grown to the point where now like our food outnumbers every other fucking animal on the goddamn planet.
Yeah, there is like a subtle thing going on here that, in a lot of ways, I see where you're coming from with this, but with me, there's a bit more of like, this perspective usually sounds weird to people when they hear it, but I don't actually see a natural synthetic distinction in reality, whether it's humans doing it or anything else.
I mean, like, nature's like, we are a part of nature, like 100%. We are, and like we've been evolved.
Yeah, I know, but what I mean is,
what up?
What I mean is, I don't see, like, fundamentally speaking, I don't see any difference between a scorpion's tail and an AK-47.
There's large fundamental differences between the two. One's
where would you draw the line?
Well, one's actually like literally tailor made by us to be a weapon against, us and other creatures. One is a weapon that was evolved and a thing is born with, right? Like that's like saying like an AK-47 is the same as our fist or our arm, and it's not. Like you're born with an arm.
Consider the compositions. Like, well, yeah. I think that probably comes down to like, it's usually that's the difference that is distinguished. But I mean, tool use is kind of just a form of environmental adaptation.
All right, how about this? So like with the scorpion's tail, you can bury that scorpion out back, right? Take it and it's alive and you bury it out back. It can get out and still come kill you. Take an AK-47, you bury it out back. It's never going to hurt you again. Right, because like unless somebody goes and digs it up and picks it up and like dusts it off and fucking puts bullets inside of it, like it's not going to hurt you. That scorpion, on the other hand, any given time, you're going to fuck you up.
Well, the only thing that's going to hurt you with a scorpion tail is a scorpion, and the only thing that's going to hurt you with an AK-47 is a human.
Well, that scorpion tail is part of that scorpion, though.
I mean, I know there's like a lot more degrees of separation that you could point out with the AK-47. Like you need to get metal, you need to get wood, you need to know geometry, you need to know a lot of things to craft an AK-47 from scratch. Probably things that no individual human would, one, have access to the resources, and two, have access to the engineering know-how to make an AK-47 from scratch.
Yeah. I mean, like, the process of making gunpowder by itself, just for the ammunition, takes like a week.
Yeah, and you've got to know exactly what chemical compounds to dig up and salvage from other things in order to combine in an exact proportion to make something like a bullet with powder in it, let alone the actual casing and the round and everything and the primer. And it takes a lot of like complex chemical knowledge. But the thing about that is all of this complex knowledge is basically an organism that's dependent on the human brain.
I mean, like, and if you wanted to do it yourself, Like you by yourself, you physically could not travel the amount of distance on foot, right, in your lifetime and still have the time and know-how and ability and like have the ability to gain all this just to make that one fucking AK-47 in one bullet.
It's going to sound kind of like a ridiculous parallel, but like if you had like a tailless scorpion and it's like, okay, you got you individual scorpion alone, you now have to go and find all the components necessary to make a tail. You would have the exact same problem. The thing with a scorpion is, like, genetically from the ground up, a lot of the heavy lifting is taken care of by like a bunch of genes and generations of scorpions all working in concert. Like it's much more spread out over a longer period of time. With humans, like time becomes compressed and really quick and snappy because we have a capacity to abstract and have meta perspectives outside of our immediate like genetic meat prison, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, like so the you know what I mean, like so therefore like an AK-47 is nowhere near the same thing as a goddamn scorpion tail or a snake's fangs, right? Or I don't know, like a platypus's motherfucking rear talons. Like they're not the same thing at all. You know what I mean? Like genetically, these things are just born with these fucking things attached to them. You know what I mean? Whereas with human beings, like we're not born with any of the knowledge or abilities or skills to be able to do all this shit. I mean, that would make us as dangerous as a scorpion tail or a fucking snake or a fucking platypus or whatever the case might be.
Well, that's the thing. That's when the memosphere and the memo types come into play. It's like, I know General Chief's like novel philosophical terms. That's like his terminology. Like when it comes to like memes and memeplexes and stuff, it's like my perspective on it. It's kind of hard to get General Chief into this camp, but it's more of just a fundamental component of humanity when you think about memes, because what are memes at the end of the day? Memes are a type of export system to basically save load on the genetic side of the equation, if you really stop to think about it. Because think of all the things that a human, like, not even a human that would grow up knowing how to build an AK-47, mind you, but just an average human, like swinging a hoe in a garden somewhere in some like peasant village or something, or whatever scenario you want to put to this. Like that individual human requires like a whole bunch of other humans around to impart those skills and hand down those things. Now, if you go back to like tribal sensibilities, it was much more close-knit, much closer to Dunbar's number. Because you were only dealing with things.
I was thinking about this
with
today.
Nature.
Right, I was thinking about this today.
Yeah.
I was watching. You ever watch boxing?
What was that?
You ever watch boxing?
Yeah, occasionally. I've seen the MMAs, the boxers, the wrestlers, and all those people.
All right, so like I was watching a video today where they were talking about the modern strength and conditioning, right? Fucking that they have for like boxers, and they go, it doesn't work as well as the old guys who would do 15 rounds and be much more active throughout the fight, right? And they were saying that, like, like the modern sports and conditioning, like, it doesn't work as well as the old methods of training, right? And I was thinking about it, and like the reality is like back in the day when you were younger and you went out and, like fucking you grew up, you'd be working in a field with your dad. Right? Or you'd be working in a mill, or you'd be apprenticing somewhere, or you'd be, like fucking throwing whatever. Like you'd work all day from dawn to dusk from the age of like 8 or 9 forward, probably before that. So therefore, like you had the wherewithal to carry yourself 15 fucking rounds in your fucking 20s when you were boxing. Like if you decided that, you were going to be a boxer, whatever it was, like, you become a teenager or whatever it is, and like, you'd be in like, I don't know, you'd be in town and like you start fighting and shit, and somebody'd see you and they go, that guy can fucking scrap. Look at that kid, right? And fucking they take you and like, you ever thought about learning how to do this? And like they fucking sit there and they teach you how to do it. And they'd impart these skills to you, but you'd already have like this background of like all this shit. And like half of our problem
Yeah.
as human beings right now is the fact that like we don't spend this time with our fathers working. We don't spend this time with like our family doing shit. You know what I mean? We're like, we're earning money for the family or helping the family get by. Right. So therefore, like all those like old Memo archetypes, the Memo types, as you would say, what I mean, aren't being built into us because like instead of our parents partaking and like, putting all this knowledge onto us throughout the years of just learning and being around and talking and like just in general, just giving that knowledge away. Like we have to learn all that shit from school and from like the merchant class, as it were.
There's also a thing about this that's a bit more subtle than that. It's like, as far as like mimetic hazards go, which is what something that General Chief often talks about. It might click a bit more when you hear it put like this. Like, you realize the very concept of quote unquote childhood is this type of contrivance of modernity.
Yes. Like the word
because
teenager,
in the old days, like, there was
like,
no such. Yeah.
like teenager didn't become a word until the 1950s.
Yeah, pretty much. But the old days, like you're talking about, like from the second you could walk upright, your father would just grab you and say, "Okay, boy, you can walk and move. Carry this fucking bucket." Like from the second you could move, you were doing grueling manual labor. There are actually historical accounts of like people in like old Scotland that were so strong that they could rip other humans apart with their bare hands.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, I don't know why, like, you're saying that's like a crazy thing.
I know, it's like, well, for you, it's not really surprising because if you remember, like, the old Greek gladiators, too, and those are some hardy motherfuckers, like, they would even intentionally like, grab people's fingers and pull them off and shit.
Well, like, you have to remember, me as a kid, like, I was on a roof carrying buckets at 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was throwing hay bales at 9 and 10 years old. Right? Like, I was working as, again, I was one of them kids who, like, as soon as I was able to walk, my mom would motherfucking get tired of me and drop me with my dad on a job site. And I would be on a job site carrying lumber, carrying drywall, carrying tools, moving things around. Right? And I was 6, 5, 4 years old. This was expected of me. So, like, I grew up around this breed of people. Like, everybody around me growing up was like this. And so, like, I knew guys like that. Like, I knew a guy one time, I swear to God, he punched a dude through a car window and busted his skull. Through a car window.
That sounds about right.
Right? Like,
that's
again.
That's not an easy task. Car windows are surprisingly hardy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're not a joke. You know what I mean? Like, I've hit car windows and they're not soft. You know what I mean? Like, you can hit them and not break them. Right? And this is the thing. This is where, like, you get down to, like, this idea of modernity and like how soft we are today is I mean, it's like, how do I put this? I went out on job sites recently with my old man, right? And I'm working with his crew or whatever. And his crew, all them kids grew up in the suburbs. And like 4 of them are trying to pick this, like there was like a walk-in oven type of thing, right? Like 4 of them are trying to pick this up. I literally dragged it by myself out of the fucking building. Right? This is what I'm saying. Like, we're not what we used to be. You know what I mean? Like, as far as shit's concerned. And we're getting weaker as the days are going on. That's like contrary to nature God as a whole. Like, if it was a nature God, we'd be getting stronger.
There's some subtleties about that would. There's a lot of like argumentation behind that. It's like, how do I even begin to go into this? Like, the concept of fitness is a better term to use for it.
Yeah,
isn't so much something that you would think of as like being like, we think of fitness like just recently, a couple months ago, I got a new truck and I was just like, I was getting really pissed off at something. I forget what it was, and I punched the side of this fucking truck, and there's still like a big fist mark in the side of the goddamn truck. But yeah, and I used to do construction and like tote around like an 80-pound bag of cement under each arm, like throwing shit over my shoulders, like moving concrete slabs around. I almost cut my pinky off one time, like because it pinched. But anyway,
Yeah.
like fitness though is a bit more subtle than that. It doesn't necessarily mean like a certain level of physical strength per se. It's not really easily encapsulated in like a single archetypal example you could point out of the quote unquote humans from the old days. It's much more subtle than that. All fitness means is you are fit for the environment. And being fit for modernity is quite a bit different than being fit for like 1600s era Scotland or the type of environment you grew up in where you're just like farming your whole freaking life. It's like not a lot of people these days actually live like that. And it's not that they're quote unquote unfit in a general term. They're very fit for a very specific environment. Now, you and I could like go back and forth and like we would probably agree on a lot of stuff. It's like the environment of modernity produces people that we would rather not interact with very often. Like I would be agreeing with you a lot insofar as that goes for multiple reasons. But that doesn't mean that they're not fit to that particular environment. Now, like, as I said before, that environment, unlike the environment of the old days of like the subsistence farmer or even the fucking hunter-gatherer, depending on how far you want to go back, the environment of modernity we have now is much more brittle. There's a lot more weak spots where it can break. Just like with the example of the AK-47, just something as simple as a pin, like a ballpoint pin. No individual human could cobble together a ballpoint pin. Just the plastic alone, you would have to drill to the bottom of the oceans and shit to get the petroleum to make that goddamn plastic. Like, no individual person is going to do this. Everything is so interconnected that if any one of these connection points like breaks because it's all so brittly coupled together, massive shit is going to disrupt these environments filled with these people that are so hyper adapted to these given environments that those motherfuckers are going to pop off and hopefully kill themselves and not take everyone with them. But I don't know these days, like just a random fucking rage moment of Antifa bullshit soy boys all together in a fucking mob is a rather formidable force, especially with the political establishment backing them up. So you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Right. So, like as I said, so like this is kind of where I am. Like if you had to go and get your own food, right? You know, I mean, not you in particular, but like, you know, just like the world as a whole, like you would be extremely maladapted for that environment, right? And therefore unfit. Like as a creature, as an animal, we as human beings are completely unfit.
Well, we're unfit for a more robust environment. We're very fit for a brittle environment. Now, we're probably both going to converge to some type of agreement that that's overall not a good thing. It depends on the sustainability of the brittle environment, and by its very nature, it's not that robust. So something's got to give. And with a brittle environment, you can't really bend something that's brittle. It's just going to snap and break off into a bunch of pieces.
Well, that's, you know, that's where we are right now. You know what I mean? So like everything's completely brittle and completely weak, and all the people are brittle and weak and soft, right? And like again, if you're looking at nature as, you know what I mean, like this global, you know what I mean, environment that we live in, you look at your like local environment as far as it's concerned, like if you didn't have a house and you didn't have the ability to like go to the grocery store because you didn't have money to pay for things, how well would the average human be adapted? I don't think rather well.
To be honest with you, I could probably, considering the way I live, I could probably get by relatively okay. I'm not like full blast Amish, But I could probably get by with like a couple of improvised cages or some like trout lines or something, like some very basic old world shit. That probably I'd get a lot skinnier.
Oh yeah. Like I live 3 blocks off of a river that's teeming with catfish and bass, right? You know what I mean? And then I live surrounded by mountains and Amish people. Like I'm fucking fine. And then I have plenty of ammunition and guns. I got 10,000 rounds of ammo and my fucking firearms and all the things I need. And if need be, you know what I mean? If like you have to take all that away again, I can still trap. Like I'll be fucking fine. Like, and I have the ability to climb mountains and go through trails and, you know what I mean, learn what I'm doing and figure out what I'm doing and handle my business. And I've done it before. Like, but the average human being is not well adapted for these environments. They're just not. So that's where we are right now. You know, so again, when we get back to nature, God, like if it was just nature, you know what I mean? Like, yo, we are de-evolving as a species. I mean, like, all right, so here's one. There's no animals in the wild that have teeth problems that aren't like beavers or mice that have to gnaw on shit.
And even their teeth, for what they do, they're pretty freaking well adapted to doing those things.
So, I mean, like, yo, we're not even well adapted to eat.
You know, there's a thing about that. I've talked with General Chief about this before, and it's like, I think this was something I happened upon before me and General Chief got to it. But if you think about what it is we're eating these days, like, I think you said you were Italian, and I'm like a freaking Irish potato goblin. So there's very specific things that our teeth are adapted to eat. Like the teeth of a tropical human, like a hunter-gatherer in a tropical environment that's eating sugary fruits and papayas all day, their teeth are going to be really well adapted to like sugary fruits. So they're probably not going to get cavities. Like if you gave them candy, it probably wouldn't hurt their teeth as much as it would hurt the teeth of like a fucking snow nigger that's never seen sugar in their life.
Right.
So if you're a fucking Norwegian and you eat like pure fucking cane sugar from the goddamn tropics and you're surprised your teeth are falling out.
Yeah, yeah, but like what we're supposed to eat and what we do eat are two way different fucking things. You know what I mean? Like the tropical, like, you know, like my people who live in the Mediterranean, whatever it is, right? Like we're not well adapted to eating massive amounts of sugar. Like we're well adapted to eating like rabbits, and goats, and pigs, and, you know what I mean, fucking deer, and you know, fucking tomatoes, and fucking not some citrus stuff, but a lot of nuts. You know what I mean? Like fucking chestnuts and fucking these type of things, right? Like that's literally what we're made to eat. Right, we are not made to eat the way we eat here. It's not positive for us as a whole. And even then, you know what I mean? Like it's not. Even like go ahead.
Even the old legend of an apple a day keeps the dentist away. It's like that type of thing. It's like, you know, apples are kind of like a naturally occurring thing where a lot of quote unquote white people live. So like eating apples actually somewhat cleans your teeth.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough.
Like we're supposed to eat shit. You know what I mean? We're supposed to eat stuff our ancestors ate.
If you gave apples to what if you gave apples to an Eskimo? I don't think apples would be as healthy for an Eskimo. It would probably cause problems with their teeth because they eat like blubber and seals and fish all the time. There's not a lot of apples in the Arctic.
Yeah, you're not wrong, right? So I mean that's where stuff is, you know, and that's what we're supposed to like be doing. We're supposed to eat the way our ancestors did. We're supposed to like, and this is why I get upset at like a lot of people who go like, yo, the white race is da 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 da. I'm like, yo, we're not white. All right. You're only white because you're in America. Right. Like everybody else in the rest of the world, you go back to Ireland and tell an Irish person they're white and they're the same as a Polish person, they'll punch you in the face.
Yeah, it's a big, like fucking white is a fucking socialist contrivance.
White is a way of getting like a way of getting like the people who live here like behind the ideologies of like a political party. Nothing more.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Just like, oh, unions, you're all white, band together. It's like, you see, you're all the same after all. There's a lot of like socialist pill pull and cajoling and bullshitting going on to like bring that together.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have like the problem of like the what the hell was it? Fucking goddamn it, I lost my shit. It pisses me off. Right? Fucking. You had the issue of like fucking the entire ideology that like you're supposed to be, you know what I mean, like fucking European and shit in America or whatever. Like this is a Western culture thing, and it's not. You know what I mean? Like this is an American thing. Like all of our like we don't really have a culture. Our culture is all based off of like fucking advertising and things that are thought up inside of like a Ford ad executives like fucking, you know what I mean, like meeting and shit back in the 1940s to sell more fucking cars. Right? None of the things that we think of as being like our own are our own. It's not. You know what I mean? It's all just like nonsense. And we have to like realize all this shit and like really get down and dirty with understanding that like, yo, we need a culture. Like you need a local culture. You need some shit that's just yours. And it doesn't belong to anybody else but y'all.
Well, thinking about like industrialization and mechanization, if you put like a bunch of people that are Italians and Germans and Poles and Irish and English and Anglos of all different stripes on a freaking assembly line, it's just like, okay, you turn the screw, you put in the bolt, you put in that rivet, you check the rivet, and then you polish it. It's like you're just reduced to this singular function where like culture and variability itself is completely like drained out of the equation.
Yeah, and this is like what they do is go, you're all just Christian men, you know what I mean? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You know what I mean? And they try to like go ahead.
I'll even tell you like a German Christian, a French Christian, an Irish Christian. If you put those three motherfuckers in a room, they're gonna start some fucking fights over some shit really quick.
Oh yeah. You know, so I mean, this is where like we get down to, you know, like, and this is something that we don't really want to have a conversation about because like we're so stuck on this mentality of like, you know, we're white, like, yo, fuck the blacks, fuck the Mexicans, fuck this or fuck that, you know, and like none of this makes any fucking sense. Like it's not a logical thing. In the end of the day, it doesn't, like, you're not white, you know, you're a Northeastern, you're a Southern person, you're a Floridian, you're a fucking Texan, you're a Californian, you're a fucking, you know, I don't know, a Portlander, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're like whoever the fuck you are, that's what you are. You know what I mean? And like, that should be your culture. Like, that should be like the baseline of what you are. And if you want to have a religion, you put it on top of that, not like as like your baseline for what you are. That aggravates the fuck out of me in the end of the day, because like, your culture is shit that you would die for. It's shit that's worth saving, right? Your religion, as far as Christians are concerned, there's nothing in fucking their religion they're willing to save.
Yeah, and if anything, like this whole racial supremacy narrative, whether it's whites or blacks or who the fuck ever is doing it, or for whatever reasons they're doing it, usually some type of like combination of Marxist bullshit and modernist crap, postmodernist crap at this point, but I digress. All this like racial supremacist freaking narratives, if anything, they're like a really pale, lukewarm bastardization of what culture really is. Like, just think about it. If you boil everything down to like, well, my mere existence as white is sufficient for me to be supreme and superior to other people, that's like vainglorious arrogance of a near transcendental degree, and it's ridiculous on its face if you really stop to think about it. Whether it's like a black power, motherfucker, you don't know anything about Africa. Like, go to Africa and see how much they think about your fucking black power. They're just gonna look at you and say, "What tribe are you from? Where are you from? Oh, you're American. You don't belong here. Get the fuck back on the boat." They don't give a shit over there. Like, their fucking culture doesn't allow for your backwards baseball cap bullshit. You fucking idiot.
Yeah. You know, and And that's kind of the problem in the end. Like we have like this giant thing that's like we're all kind of looking for. We're all kind of trying to find like a place, a tribe, a group. You know what I mean? And like America's just not it anymore. Like we're not Americans, right? We're not, right? Because like there's as big of a difference between me and somebody in LA as there is between me and somebody in fucking Costa Rica, right? Like, like just there's that large of a gap in the difference of culture and ideology and like mentality and accent and people and like way of life and like fucking diet as there is, you know what I mean, between me and that fucking person in Southern California. So like we need to understand that like we have to have and get back to like a baseline of like what we are and get back to and understand that like the reasons why they fight against balkanization and they fight against like you having like your family and all these type of things is it has more to do with like things like profit than it does with anything the fuck else in the end of the day. And like I don't like Marxism because like I think Marxism is basically just a shitty form of liberalism, right? But I also don't like liberalism. I think enlightenment and liberalism is fucking trash too. Like I don't really care about having all these modern things. Like the best times in my life have been times when I didn't have electricity. Like my electric was off. You know what's great? I get to go cook out and fucking grill. And I go fishing and I do things. There's no TV on. There's no noise. There's no nonsense. I get to go to sleep in peace, right? I get to like live my life as like my fucking ancestors lived it. And it's not a bad way of going. You know what I mean? Like you ever fucking like a hurricane came through one time, knocked the power out for 3 weeks, storming and thundering and crazy. I slept like a fucking baby. Now I was wet for like 3 weeks. That was like you just had to come accustomed to being wet. You were just damp forever. But like you went outside, you cooked out every day, and you enjoyed yourself, and you had fun, and you lived your life, and it was great. You know what I mean? It was amazing. You got to deal with your neighbors because like everybody was hungry. So we all had deep freezers with fucking ice on top of them, full of fucking food, and we sat there and cooked meat out in the fucking grill together, and like just ate and lived and drank and just enjoyed ourselves. That's what you're supposed to do as people, as a human being. That's how you're supposed to live. Like, you're not supposed to live in this fucking hyper modernized fucking world where you're attached to everybody and have like all this shit. You know what I mean? These fucking plastic bottles full of nonsense and fucking appliances and garbage and all the things that like separates you out from like being reliant upon everybody else around you and shit.
This kind of reminds me of like, speaking of liberalism and the decline of the fucking West and all this shit. This reminds me of the long, arduous journey of one Carl Benjamin, otherwise known as Sargon of Akkad. Now, he's still kind of meme-worthy, but not as much as he used to be in certain respects. It's interesting because I've been watching him since like the earliest days. I think like 2014, 15, around the whole Gamergate fucking debacles in there. I need to fuck Kezian. It's a stupid feminist. Oh,
I would not even rape you. I would not even rape you. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I was there.
Slowly over the years, like you realize if you pay attention to them over the years that pass, Sargon, he like went from being liberal to like liberal-ist, like, oh, the no true Scotsman liberal. And then he went to be like slowly more and more. Then he became a classical liberal. And now he's just a fucking conservative. Because I think he read enough of this like Marxist and postmodernist shit to realize like, wait a minute, the Enlightenment is part of the fucking problem, isn't it?
Well, he's not even a conservative in the end of the day, right? Like, because he doesn't want to conserve shit. That's always been my problem with these conservatives. It's like they don't like, what are they conserving?
There's a recent video that Sargon did with Peter Boghossian, I think it was, talking about like rationalist morality, and basically rationalist morality is impossible. Like me and General Chief had like mostly we agreed on this, but you can't derive. It's sort of like Hume's guillotine, the is-ought distinction. You can't really derive morality from rationality, but it's actually a bit even deeper than that. The reason why you can't rationalize morality is like rationalization is a post hoc process. Like the morality was already there. The morality is deep seated. Some might even argue the morality is preeminent in the form of like certain religious adherence. The reason why you can't rationalize that is it didn't come out of a rational system. And when you try to apply a rational system to it, you end up with this problem where in like rational morality, if it's rational and empirically based and derivable axiomatically, what you can then do with any and all moral statements under this rubric, you should be able to discretize them down into logograms. And the second you put moral terms into logograms, you're going to run into the Gödel's incompleteness problem in set theory, where eventually the more of these sets you compile, and these can be like both convergent and divergent sets of infinities and multi-nested hierarchies of infinity. It doesn't matter. Like moral claims wouldn't even get to this level because it's only dealing with specifically humans. But it would eventually run into this fundamental halting problem that's at the base of all discrete axiomatic rational thought, where you're left at the end of it holding the bag and you have to say it's true. You find that the actual axioms themselves don't speak back at you. They're just like tally marks on a board. They don't have any animating principle about them. You're the one that says this is rational, this is moral, this is right. The words on the paper at the end of the day don't mean shit.
Again, this is why like you need a culture to fit your morality on top of. That's why, right? You have to have that's like it's like you're doing like a math problem without like the background of actually like counting something, right? So like say you're doing a math problem of like 3 apples plus 4 apples or whatever the fuck it is, right? And like you're basically trying to do 3 plus 4, and you go, okay, you have 7, then somebody goes 7 what? And you go, I don't know, right? It's just 7. Right, because like it's 7. Like it's 7 in the ether, right? It's not 7 apples. It's not 7 zebras. It's not 7 cows. It's not 7 pigs, right? Like once you put like something underneath of that, then you have like now you're counting something, right? And that's where those tallies start coming up at. Is that like when you have your culture and you have like your way of life, you have like your children, you have your community, you have your family, you have your land, you have your fucking shit that you have to do every day to maintain your land, or ways that you have to like live to be able to, I don't know, stop rock slides or fucking mudslides, or fucking be able to catch fish, or, get enough fucking bait to catch fish, or whatever the case is. Then all these things start to make a little more fucking sense. You know what I mean? And you start having reasons behind doing all the shit that you're doing.
And all the things that you're describing, they're not so much even rationally articulated as they're just sentimental. It's like, I have a strong emotionally based compulsion, for lack of a better term,
and that's
to
fine.
Be a good father to my family, or to be a good son, or to be honorable. It's like, the second you start like trying to rationally deconstruct these things, you start to realize you run into this weird problem where it's just like you keep asking why, and eventually the answers start to get really weird and esoteric, and they might eventually evaporate into nothing. Now, does that mean that their morality is totally baseless? Well, obviously not, because like you say, this is like a fundamental bedrock of culture itself. It's like this is where this is all built from. So it's obviously not worthless bullshit. It's more that your rational process doesn't in an ultimate way interface with what's really going on at the deeper, more complex levels.
Well, it's like this, right? So like let's say, I don't know, you have a mom and a dad or whatever, right? And like the government comes by and they fucking take your mom and dad and they shoot them in the fucking face, right? Now, at this time, you were on your own and doing your own thing, and you weren't relying upon your mom and dad. So like really you didn't have any actual attachment to them other than them being your mom and dad. Does that change the fact that it hurts that they're gone? Yes, no, maybe.
Very good point. Yeah, you're still gonna feel that. You're still gonna feel that fucking bite. Like,
yeah.
why do you miss them so? It's because they were my family, and that's a sufficient answer. That's all the answer. Now, I could sit down here for hours and months, like going over all like evolutionary reasons and neuroscience. Well, you see, the neuron in the third quadrangle of the fucking brain fired at 2.9 milliseconds. Like, I could sit here for fucking years trying to like break and scientificize all this fucking shit and break everything down to its atomistic components. But at the end of the day, the answer, these people were my kid and now they have been taken from me and I feel the loss. That is a sufficient answer. You don't need anything else.
Yeah, that's all you really need. Right? At the end of the day, that's it. Right? And sometimes and with most human beings, with like, I'm going to say 99% of humans, that's enough. Right? That's enough to motherfucking make them go like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, yo, this is, you know what I mean? This is why we're doing this. You know what I mean? It's because of the fact that we know if I don't do this, you know what I mean? If I don't live this way, then like these people die, even though I may be okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's enough for them to go like, yo, I don't want them to die. You know what I mean? And you go and you continue to live your life the way you are. You know, it's nothing more than that. And that's why you need a culture. That's it. You know what I mean? Is to preserve that. Right. And to like stand here and go like, so, okay. I was handed my family history going back to like the 10th century, right? And like I was handed these set of documents, right? And like I'm looking at this paper that's all yellow and tattered and shit. You know, I mean, it's been photocopied a bunch of times, but like, you know, it's still all yellow and, you know, I mean, fucking old. And I'm looking at it and I'm reading it, you know what I mean? And like I'm sitting here and I'm holding in my hands, right, the history of my fucking people, right? And I'm looking at a picture of my great grandmother holding my oldest son, right? And hearing her voice in my fucking head, right? And like smelling the house, you know what I mean? And like, you know, my fucking memory and shit. And knowing that like these people here on this page, they didn't just make me, you know what I mean? It's not just me. They made her. They made my grandfather. They made my mother, my uncles. You know what I mean? Like me and my sister, my children, like they handed down like shit and they risked their lives and they worked their ass off and they did all this shit. And the end result is me and my, you know what I mean, next to my fucking children who came after me. And that's really important in the end of the day. And that's like a beautiful thing. And losing that is like, and saying you're a conservative and you don't have like that type of baseline to know what you're fucking conserving is, to me, it's I couldn't understand, you know what I mean? Like how you can go, I'm a conservative, and you go like, what are you conserving? And they go, we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yo, they like nobody really has an answer when you ask these type of questions. And that's what you should be conserving.
This is the problem that General Chief runs into in a very profound way. It's like fucking libertarians in general really seem to struggle with this level of fucking shit. Most, especially fucking Randians. Randians are basically just like meat robots. I'm convinced that fucking Randian objectivists are meat robots at this point. Because like, what the fuck are you people even doing? I'm Stefan Molyneux, and that wasn't an argument. I wrote the book on arguments, and I've identified that as a non-argument. But anyway, General Chief is like, and to, I would probably say to like a similar degree, we're alike, me and General Chief, in this regard. Like, we're kind of like the eternal outsiders. I think the difference is I'm kind of like the meandering, like Zarathustrian philosopher that just kind of like makes all these insightful observations of human nature. And General Chief is trying to like abstract and scientificize fucking nature and fit it into his like rubric of penultimate identity. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's ever really fully admitted to himself that he very much, to a degree, he has a bit of family history. Like, he knows who his like father was and his grandfather and like the type of things that they were into and stuff.
Yeah. Right.
To me, like, even like a lot of my stuff was just like, coal miners and like basically wage slaves at company stores and shit. So
Well, that's
so that's where
fine
that
though.
goes.
That's fine though. But like, they wage slaved it so that like you could be sitting here today at 5:30 in the morning, you know what I mean, having a conversation with some guy across the fucking country, you know what I mean, and like, have him stand here and recognize you for going like, yo, you're a fucking smart motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, yo, like that's what that's literally what they did for you. You know what I mean? Like that's what they risked all their lives so that you could be here and like make a change. And like, I'll be honest with you, I've been recording since I came to fuck in because I need some content for my YouTube channel. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and if y'all said anything negative, I would have fucking deleted that. But like, like that way, like, yo, I can showcase a guy like you, and a guy like you can affect other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like that. At least I'm aware of that, like sincere human level interconnectedness. Usually I get the sensation from General Chief that he's aware of it in a very paradoxically inhuman way. For him, everything becomes like either abstracted, although he's found ways around that, but even then it becomes like this larger than life, like he's literally at the point of interfacing with a literal god, and in a quite a different way than the people you and I and he would also like stand together and criticizing a lot. General Chief is kind of like slip the reins of like everyday humanity in a way. Like he's kind of like the cleric counting the angels on a head of a pin, but it's nature god instead.
Yeah,
and
like,
he's kind of torn between that because nature god's edicts are very explicit with humans, but if you talk to him long enough, you'll slowly start to realize that so how does your radical individualist libertarianism fit into human culture and tribal living and anarcho-fucking primitivism? Do you understand that a libertarian and anarcho-primitive society would either be a fucking sneak breeder, or they would be like a crazy person wandering around the woods, probably getting eaten by a tiger, and if they were really lucky, they would stumble into another tribe and become like a Cheshire Cat smiling equivalent of an ancient used car salesman and end up fucking someone's daughter? That's what a libertarian would do in a hunter-gatherer society.
Well, in a hunter-gatherer society, a libertarian would get beaten half to death for like asking too many dumbass questions and causing problems. In the end of the day,
it'd probably be quicker than that. You'd fuck the wrong person's daughter, and they just kill you.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So like this is where like libertarianism is stupid in a community. I mean, there are no libertarians, and like I can understand like the mentality of like, yeah, like you should have like your freedom to be able to do what you want with your land, and I mean, like your wife is your wife, and you're like if you want to stand here, and like grow something other than like what we want you to fucking grow, like that's. We should have that argument, I mean, because if you see a better way, then like, yeah, sure, no problem. Right. But like on the same point, if you continue to like press the goddamn issue, you're just going to end up getting fucking executed and we're going to take your wife. You know what I mean? Like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, because like the whole thing is like, we want everybody to survive and not just you. And that's something.
Yeah. And I also, you see how I realized the difference, like when you were bringing up like that allegory of being the chieftain, if you recall. I was like, okay, under the family law, the fucking chieftain, this whole freaking tribe is basically his household. This is like the all father.
Yeah.
Like what this motherfucker says goes in accordance with the most primitive law imaginable, which is the law of the fucking jungle. This goes all the way back to the fucking ape.
Yeah, like I didn't choose to be the chief. This is something that like I have to do. I mean, this is something people want me to do, right? And so therefore, like, yo, you're gonna do what the fuck I say because like, yo, it just is what the fuck it is. Like, I didn't ask for this dumb shit. You know what I mean? But like, yo, this is what it is, and you're gonna fucking do what I tell you to do, or I'm gonna execute you. Because if I let you stand here and ask me fucking questions and get all retarded, then that means other people are gonna motherfucking see me as being fallible, and that's not a fucking positive thing to do when we need somebody to fuck in charge. Like, I don't know if you like. if you've ever been like a boss, you know what I mean? But like when one of your fucking workers starts acting like a fucking asshole, you gotta get rid of them because like everybody else is gonna start trying to act like a fucking asshole. Because if you just let them get the fuck away with it, then everybody's gonna think they can just get the fuck away with it, and it just causes derision and bullshit and nonsense, and destroys the entire workplace. Like,
Yeah, I've never been an actual boss or a manager myself, but the closest I've ever come to that is like running internet communities. And in a way, that's so much fucking worse in so many goddamn ways. Like, at least in the real world, like, you can get rid of motherfuckers. In fucking digital world, you have to get rid of motherfuckers in a tactical Machiavellian way. You have to use like very specialized techniques because the motherfuckers can just infinitely respawn. You can't actually get rid of a real person. They'll just make a sock account and keep fucking with you.
Well, like, so, all right. This goes back. Remember Turd Flinging Monkey? Like, one of his favorite thing was authority. You have to have authority, and if you have responsibility, you have to have authority, right? It's a basic premise. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I was boss at a lot of places. I was boss of a logistics company.
Yeah.
I was boss in a steel mill. I was boss in I was boss, believe it or not, for Samsung appliances, right? For the Northeast US. I did all their quality control for the Northeast, right? I had an assistant, an executive bathroom, you know what I mean, all that type of shit, right? You know, and like, so I've been a boss like a bunch of times, and like, you kind of got to carry yourself as a boss, and you got to keep yourself separated from everybody the fuck else. And if anybody starts like firing off at the mouth at you, like, you're like, yeah, you're the fuck up out of here, you know what I mean? Or you chin check them immediately, right? Because like, if you just let people do whatever the fuck they want, you know what I mean? Like, you know, then they just think they can get away with shit, and it just causes massive amounts of fucking problems. And you have to have control over what's going on. That's like kind of the whole premise of like responsibility. Like, I have responsibility for this tribe. Therefore, I have authority over this tribe. It's nothing more than that. Because like, if you have authority, you have to have responsibility. Like, I didn't have to be Machiavellian.
Yeah, and
running shit. Go ahead.
That's very deep, and it's very deep seated, and it's very closely tied to foundational elements of the human experience too. Because another allegory, Turd Flinging Monkey specifically, likes to use a lot is like the allegory of children. And what do fucking disobedient children do? They always look for lines that they can take you to and still get away with shit. So you've got to keep that line relatively low, or else they'll just always go up to that line where it's ass whooping time, and they'll keep on fucking with you. So you have to like lay down some type of foundational law. It's like, look, you're not going to fuck with me in my house. Don't even start this bullshit. If I even smell you fucking with me in any way, shape, or form, something is going to happen to your ass that you are not going to like.
Well, like, it's like being on the street, right? So like, when you're on the street, you have like a certain number of areas that you have or whatever, right? And then somebody tries to like, and people like, the people who know, right, not to fuck with those areas, some of them will try it. Right. And like, you immediately got to walk over the moment you see him doing some dumb shit, you just punch him in the fucking face. Right. You just drop him. And it's that simple. Right. And they run back to their little people and they come over and they go, what did happen? I'm like, he fucking was fucking around. I'm like, and then he gets his ass whooped by his guy. Right. Because of the fact that his guy don't want that fucking problem either. You know, like, this is how this works. You know what I mean? These habitual dumbass line steppers, you just chin check them. And if they keep doing it, you fucking kill them. It's that simple, right? And this is why, like, libertarianism is fucking dumb as a whole. And there's no society that would just allow libertarians to just do whatever the fuck they want, because they would just cause anarchy and destroy your entire society.
Yeah, even with something like the non-aggression principle. Like, the non-aggression principle is like, that's a relatively high bar when you think about it. Like, okay, so the only time you're actually going to do something is when actual physical threatening aggression occurs. Do you realize how much shit that a massive number of people could get away with without ever trespassing that specific line? They could fucking grind you into the goddamn ground without ever throwing a punch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why, like, you ever heard of a paperwork terrorist?
Oh yeah, those fucking vexatious litigants that just try, like Billy Mitchell trying to sue everyone into oblivion for making fun of him for not actually winning those video games. Fuck you, Billy Mitchell, come get me.
Well, there's there's him, and then like you have a paper terrorist in jail, right? Fucking basically, you'll have convicts who just use a law library to start like putting cases against like the DA who's prosecuting them and shit, right? Or like,
Yeah.
like the judge, right? Or like they'll fucking do it against the state, or they'll do it against like the fucking warden or the fucking guards, right? And like they'll just be paper terrorists and just file all of the litigation just all of the time, right? Because like every once in a while you'll come across like a guy, you know, who gets locked up who just he has the knack for paperwork. You know what I mean? He's fucking good at it. And like this is, you know what I mean? Like these people here, like they're immediately dealt with. You know what I mean? Like as soon as they find out that they're a fucking paperwork terrorist, you know what I mean? Like they'll sit there and just like fucking start charging them with extra crimes and fucking with them and taking away their shit. And then like, you know what I mean? They'll eventually get to the point where like they'll just, you know, like fucking smash them and like beat the shit out of them. And nobody will say a fucking word because like, yo, everybody knows that like that person there is somebody who needed his fucking ass kicked. Right. And that's the end of the fucking day for that guy. You know, and like he'll never be able to use his fucking hands again. Like you can't file out any more fucking paperwork. Like this is how you deal with these
more
fucking people.
insidious and subtle form of that is like those motherfuckers in prison that write books about a given thing. Like you've seen these freaking, like usually it's freaking Marxists. That's a different form, a more insidious form of the paperwork terrorist. Like, oh, this guy was in prison for X number of years and he wrote this kind of shitty book about how to be a communist, basically. Technically, in a way, that's actually even worse.
I mean, it's technically not. You know what I mean? Like, because like the book's gonna get read by 3 people and nobody's gonna care. Like,
and usually when you think about it, the people utilizing those books are probably like the people on the outside, all the frickin' Marxist establishment frickin'